What's up, guys? My name's Zane and welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know, this last weekend I was at LAIC where I got top 64 with this team in front of you. So today I just want to do a quick team report, kind of talk about my team, why I chose the mons I did, as well as the sets. Just kind of go through my, thought process when team building. For those of you that have been on the channel before and are waiting for the LAIC vlog that will be coming out very soon, but I do have a lot of clips to go through, so it's going to take me a bit of time. So hopefully this is kind of enough to hold out till then. So just so you guys know, what team I was playing. The team I played is very similar to my GC team. It centers around Grassy seed Volcarona, which I think was a very, very good meta call for this event. Just based on the usage stats from the last couple of events like Gdansk and other regionals before that. So just quickly pulling up those statistics. So for Gdansk, you could see the top 12 mons right here. So with the Grassy seed, Sneasler doesn't really do too well into Volcarona. Rillaboom does not do well into Volcarona. Golden Go doesn't do too well. King Gambit also doesn't do very well, especially with the Terra Fairy. Dragonite with the Grassy seed and Terra Fairy doesn't do too well into Volcarona. It's good into Amoonguss. Volcarona is also good into Garchomp with the Terra Fairy Grassy seed. So it just felt very, very strong based on that. And then if we look at the LAIC stats, this is for day 2. But in day 2, you'll see a lot of the same mons were kind of showing up. There were a couple differences, like Garchomp's no longer on here. We have like Blood Moon or Sluna and like Basket Legion on here, but you'll see that we still got Sneasler, we still have Golden Go, we still have Rillaboom, we still have Dragonite, Amoonguss is still on here, King Gambit's still on here. Because of that, I think, yeah, this was a very, very good call for the event, and it's definitely a pretty big reason why I did so well. And even with that, I still think I could have done even better if I played a little bit better. I definitely made some misplays that cost me a few rounds, so I definitely don't think that I went as far as I could have with this team. But I quickly want to go over some of the spreads and specific choices I made and talk about why I kind of made them. If we pull up the team right here on Showdown, so obviously the first mon is Volcarona. The set for the most part is standard. It's Heat Wave, Terra Blast, Quiver Dance, Protect with Terra Fairy. Obviously the Grassy seed is the one big key difference. One of the big reasons I like Grassy seed Volcarona so much is because it combos just really well with the Flame Body ability. In the current metagame, most physical attacks are, contact moves, which means that you're basically able to proc that burn from Flame Body way more often. And that could be game winning in a lot of cases. And because of the Grassy seed giving you that defense boost, you're able to just live way more physical attacks and just, have a higher chance of getting those flame body procs. When it comes to opportunity costs, the main item that people were running on a Volcarona set like this was the Covert Cloak, but I felt like I didn't really need it because if people wanted to trade fake outs with me, I was totally happy with that, just because there's a 30% chance that you're going to proc a flame body burn, and that can honestly just be game winning on its own. That's just because if they get burned, you're now able to set up Quiver Dances way more safely because they're just not threatening you anymore. And then the game kind of spirals out of control from there. And because of that, I noticed that people just weren't faking me out, even though I didn't have a Covert Cloak. The Flame Body was already enough a deterrent for faking it out. That's why I just felt like the Covert Cloak was a little bit unnecessary, and why I felt like going with an item like the Grassy Seed just seemed a little more impactful for me, at least on Volcarona. In terms of the actual stats, the big thing I wanted to do is make sure I had an even number for my my defense, special attack, and special defense. And that's because when you're an even stat number, you get an extra point because of the way that just the +1s work when you're like multiplying by 1.5 times. Because from 100 you go to 150, which but if you're at 99 you would go to 148. So you miss out on an extra point, or you miss out on 2 points at +1 instead of just 1 when you get to +1. Another big thing is with this spread specifically with the Grassy seed. If you choose not to Terra, you can live a +2 Sucker Punch from King Gambit, which is pretty insane. And that also means that if you do go Terra Fairy, that you'll always take a little bit under half HP from their Sucker Punch, which is a pretty important threshold to just know. In terms of speed, the speed of this mon was fast enough so that at +1 you can outspeed a lot of the common threats like Sneasler. It definitely could have been a little bit faster to outspeed other mons. Like this is 1 point below Adamant Dragapult to give you an idea when you go +1. But in general, I think the spread was pretty solid. The only difference I would make is lowering the special attack just a bit, just to get that extra couple points in speed. I want to say it came up a little bit versus a Dragapult. It wasn't really the main reason I lost versus it, but it was. It definitely could have helped out in the matchup a lot. The next handful of mons are all pretty standard. Rillaboom is just the classic Assault Vest set with Fake Out Grassy Woodhammer High Horsepower. My set is mostly trying to speed creep all Rillas. This is probably as fast as you can go if you want to still keep the nice bulk that the Rilla with Assault Vest has. It's pretty hard to go any faster. I've already taken out the extra point in HP. The reason I took it out of HP instead of an extra point of SPDF is so, again, it's the same idea as the Grassy Seed and the +1s and the way the multipliers work. It's an even stat, so you get that extra point. If you were to go down 1, you'd lose technically 2 points of SPDF. The Grassy Terrain just, proc the Grassy Seed, get us that defense boost. The healing from that also is really good synergy-wise with Volcarona. Weakening Earthquake for this team is also very, very nice because we have 3 Mons weak to Earthquake. Super powerful and useful Mon. I was super happy I played it. The next Mon is Electabuzz. In my opinion, at least for this team, Electabuzz is probably the best redirector. It's super, super bulky, and then it just has a bunch of attributes that just work so well together in this metagame that I just really, really liked. The fact that it's an electric type and has Vital Spirit means that against Sneasler, it can't be slept or paralyzed by Dire Claw, which means that you can only get poisoned, which really lowers the chances of RNG negatively impacting your run. And this team also has a really big Sneasler weakness because of Rillaboom, Kingambit, and Primarina. The main way I would deal with it is a lot of redirecting it with Electabuzz and trying to target it down early. And then Volcarona, one thing I didn't mention is in terms of damage, there's a lot of specific damage thresholds that you kind of have to learn as you play with them on. And one of the big ones was Sneasler. At +1 with Quiver Dance, you are outspeeding the Sneasler, and your Heat Wave does about 80-ish% with Heat Wave, which doesn't sound very good because you're like, oh, I'm not one-shotting it, but it actually ends up being very, very useful because you're not getting them down to Focus Sash and proccing their Unburden ability, which means that you'll be able to outspeed them the next turn and just KO them. The combination of these 2 Mons was enough for me to deal with it, which is why the rest of the team was able to be a little weaker to Sneasler, and I was still fine. But yeah, this Mon, super amazing. The Terra Dragon's really nice for beating the rain matchup, because if they lead Arch Pelipper, you don't have to Terra because you're not too threatened, and you can follow me Swords Dance with Kingambit, and then against Bass Pelipper, you can go Terra Dragon, and that lets you live Wave Crash Hurricane, and then also get that +2 with the Swords Dance, and then just kind of sweep with Gambit with Electabuzz, and then Rilla Sneasler just kind of in the back supporting. Super, super vital piece of the team. Super happy I brought it. The Kingambit set is very standard. It's just 252, 252, Adamant, 4 special defense. I've ran Kingambits in the past with a little more speed, but I felt as though I didn't need it for this tournament because I didn't really need it to outspeed other Gambits in the mirror. Volcarona was already handling the Kingambits as well as, with Sneasler. So it just wasn't really necessary for me, in my opinion. But Kingambit's nice with Volk. This comp has been popular throughout the format, but Kingambit handles a lot of the Mons that Volcarona is not very good into. It's also great at just cleaning up with Sucker Punch after Volcarona just chips the entire team. And yeah, super solid Mon. It probably won me as many games as Volcarona did. It wins every rain matchup. It's really good into the sand matchup too. It's just, yeah, super, super good. Sneasler is the next Mon. This one's also very standard. It's just the same Dire Claw, Close Combat, Fake Out, Protect with Terra Ghost, Focus Sash, Unburden, Max Speed, Jolly. One difference between this set and my GC set is in the GC I played Coaching instead of the Protect, but I felt as though that Coaching was a little less reliable than Grassy Seed with Grassy Terrain, which is why I didn't keep it. I feel like Coaching loses a lot of value when the Mon that's receiving the Coaching is not a physical attacker. And yeah, the defense boost is nice, but it's not game winning. And I'd rather just get an attack off with Sneasler or protect it and then reposition, or just allow it to live one more turn. Just be a nuisance, just a little bit longer, was a little bit more impactful than the Coaching, which is why I kind of cut it. And then yeah, the last Mon is Primarina. Everyone's saying that this Mon's washed, but I honestly think this spread was extremely useful for me. One of the big reasons I ran Primarina is Scale Shot Dragonite was getting really popular, and it's even popular in a team like this. I think a team with these exact 5 and then Dragonite got top 16 or top 32 at LAIC. And I think Primarina just does really well into it. Just being a fairy type, my set's very bulky with the Citrus Berry. You're always living anything. You're hitting them back with big Moonblast damage. And then I really needed a Mon that was good in a Dozo, and I felt like this is the best Mon into Dozo. This spread with the HP and the defense allows you to live 2 wave crashes 93% of the time after Citrus Berry and Grassy Terrain recovery, and then after a Protect you're always living. So against this, I guess, standard wave crash order up Earthquake Protect set, you can always live 2 attacks no matter what and then get the haze off, versus the Terra Steel Heavy Slam set that was getting more popular. The Terra Water was so useful just because you're able to resist the Heavy Slam, and now you're even able to kind of counter that set as well and not worry too much about not getting your haze off or fainting before you got haze. Another big side effect of playing Terra Water over like Poison is that the damage boost on Hyper Voice was really important. So the extra damage from Terra Water lets you hit some crucial damage thresholds. A really big one that came up for me was Sneasler. Normally against the standard Sneasler set, Hyper Voice does about like 40-45%. So when you Terra Water, you're doing about like 60, which means that Sneasler is no longer a switch into your Primarina if you click Terra Water Hyper Voice, since you're threatening a 2-shot on it. And yeah, you're not resisting Direct Claw or close combat anymore, but with the defensive spread that I have, you're always living the close combat and the Direct Claw with a pretty good amount of HP anyways, and you're threatening the extra damage, which I think was way more important for me. It even won me a round where I did predict a Sneasler switch in, and then this Mon just kind of swept the whole team. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my spreads. In terms of the team itself, I was pretty happy with it. I think it performed pretty well. It definitely has its weaknesses. One of the big ones was that it relies a lot on setup. So you're not able to sometimes get that immediate like threat on turn 1, which can be difficult if you don't get the chance to set up. So some teams that are good into fake out with like a lot of ghost mons, specifically like the Sun teams with like Hisuian Typhlosion, can sometimes be a problem. There's also the fact that the team is a little bit rigid because of things like the Grassy Seed and the setup. It can feel pretty bad to set up a turn and then later have to switch out, making you feel like you kind of lost a turn. That being said, I have won games because I decided to switch out my Volcarona, give up my Grassy Seed boost, and then bring it in later to kind of finish off the rest of my opponent's team. So those situations still do come up. I think if this team was not as good of a meta call as it was, it might not have done so well. But because I felt like the mons I had were so good into the meta that I was pretty much able to set up every time and just keep them in, and it was never ever a problem. And it was just like a protect the castle kind of team. So if you are running this team, just make sure you keep that in mind that, yeah, it definitely can feel like rigid at times. And if the meta does not call for it, I could see this team not being or not performing as well as it did for me. But I think for in the context of LAIC and the metagame that was there, it definitely was a very good call in my opinion, and obviously did pretty well for me. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys enjoyed the team, if you guys liked the video, please don't forget to leave a like. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out more of my videos, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything else that I put out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.